Alright, so I'm doing my dishes. I'm gonna take a shower after this. Um, I'm not feeling particularly great at all. I didn't really get into an argument with my mother or anything like that to make that happen, which is good. I don't know. I really don't know if I can handle getting into an argument with my mother right now. Um, I got a inspection happening next week during Halloween. Okay, which means I need to clean the apartment, and I really need uh, to have. Um, I need to talk to a therapist, I guess. Today is a really rough one. I'm just gonna try and get through it for what it's worth. I'm not feeling super good. I'm having bad sleep and loss of hope and belief in like things getting better for my future. Yeah, like I feel really down and depressed. There's not really much I can do about it, for what it's worth. So there's that problem I'm having right now. I'm trying to keep myself put together more than anything. I don't know if this is technically a crisis event. I don't feel like harming myself, but I do feel like screaming and yelling and crying really bad. But then I feel afraid to do that because I'm afraid that it'll end up making me try and harm myself or not do what I need to do and give up entirely. So I kind of got to be a little stronger and sort of make sure I don't do that. I want to try and get some things done for tomorrow and Saturday because I need to make sure that I have my stuff all cleaned and ready to go for people to check my apartment, make sure everything's good, and let them know about. I think it's black mold. I'm not sure if it's black mold. Honestly, I'm not sure about a lot of things, but like, I kind of need to get some stuff done. Positive though is that it would appear that I might be able to get uh, like a scooter, moped, or motorcycle, because they're going to cost kind of the same amount of money instead of an e-bike. I get that some people would want an e-bike, but like, truthfully, I don't know if the e-bike is a good idea anymore, considering it just doesn't have the range. And at that damn point, I might as well just get a freaking motorcycle to have that kind of range, because I'd have to have so much more money. I'd end up buying an e-motorcycle for it to be something to begin with. And then it's like, which means a electric motorcycle, which just I don't think would be worth it at all. In fact, I'm pretty darn sure it wouldn't be. I was talking to the mom and dad about that a little, and I don't want anything too expensive, too hard to maintain, too difficult to ride, too much torque, too much horsepower, too much any of that. Like literally, that's my whole new. Like, love the idea of making engines that go burr really well and produce a lot of power and whatnot. But like, I've had more than enough uh, scary moments with the e-bike alone to really just not need that. You know what I mean? So it's just like, screw that. I also don't like. I'll let you know that it's like, well, I stopped this green tea that costs like $40 with taxes and shipping and shit, or like taxes at the very least, and cost of the tea. And I'm like, well, that would basically pay right there for motorcycle insurance. They were willing to pay for that, then it's like, well, that'd be okay. I was talking to my dad on the way over here. It's like, I'll look into it. It's like probably cheaper, again, like the same thing where it's like, it is probably just cheaper straight up to just buy like an actual like small little motorcycle that can get me in phaser with the trailer over to like a trail where I can park it and then not have to worry about like having not enough range or going too fast or not having enough power or getting out of people's way, that kind of thing. Because like on the road, like I really shouldn't have that e-bike on the road. They don't have bike lanes, and the few that are there aren't where I'm at, and the rest of it's like kind of scary because the street lights are in the middle of the damn sidewalk. So it's just like, it's probably just a better idea to get a freaking motorcycle. This is going to be cheaper, and I don't need it to have a lot of power. As it's like I want a good first starter that's reliable and easy to maintain and repair, that has more than enough torque to get me up a decent slope, at a decent speed that doesn't ultimately cause people to honk and try and be dangerous going around me, because that is not fun to deal with at all. And it's like, if you think people don't look out for motorcycles, like, think about mopeds, right? So it's like, that's probably a better idea, just straight up as an option, and then the gas, like, I'm probably not going to be using my damn motorcycle very much, except for like getting to and from appointments and making sure I can take the dog out for an actual walk that makes sense for him, because he's a very high energy dog that needs a lot more walks than I give him, and I feel bad that I don't take him on enough walks, but it's just it's really hard for me to ride my bicycle at all, and I just feel like I'm barely muddling through sometimes. And my depression has kind of gotten the better of me, even though I look like I'm manic and not depressed and all that. I actually barely get outside. Like, genuinely recorded for like a couple of weeks straight, and that's just because I pushed myself to do that, and now I'm not feeling super great anymore. I wasn't then. It was just like, man, I need a cope somehow. Like, shit's bad. I don't feel good at all. And like, this is not good. And my this denial decision really got to me, actually. Then on top of it, it's like, whatever reason they have. I mean, they literally said, well, you should work maybe some jobs. And I'm like, no, and you didn't even suggest what ones I could work at all. Which, to me, suggests that that I really couldn't. Especially when I was having difficulty when I was going to Voc Rehab. Actually being able to complete my my education with them to be able to possibly have a job that I could go to, and I kept telling them, it's like, I really don't know if I can honestly work a job. I can barely function on a day-to-day basis. And they're like, yeah, I don't, effectively a lot of it was the equivalent of, yeah, I really don't think you could work a job. And it used to sting a lot more, and I want to try and head towards positives in my life, and I kind of feel like I've done all the things I could really even try and do to help myself get better, mentally and emotionally, to the point where I feel I could even be, stable enough in my life to really genuinely pursue better things than just mental and physical healthcare stuff. This is like, that's currently right now all I'm doing. Like, literally, that's it. Like, I'm not doing anything else. I'm just pursuing physical and mental health care for myself, and they're like, no, you'll get a job. So I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to get a job. Like, even after I do that, it's like it'd take. It'll probably never happen. It takes some fucking miracle to happen, where I'd actually be able to do something. And I thought about it. It's like, well, you're really smart and all this other stuff is what someone would say, right? Like, a genius, like, you really are that smart, you know? And it's like, cool, except for, the only reason why you think that that would amount to anything is if I had the opportunities and money from people to pursue any of those ideas and then be able to get somewhere with that, which would take people I don't have in my life and the ability to present to someone or get an investor or something that I couldn't really do. That requires being able to function. And like, the only reason why I'm like, oh, SSI might be able to get me somewhere with that. It's like, oh, because, eventually after enough time, I'd get better and maybe, be able to do the 3D printing things I talk about and even, build some of my stuff, eventually, right? So for me, it's like, no, I'm not gonna just lie to myself. I'd rather not do that. Again, that's what landed me in the hospital in the first place, was lying to myself that I was better than I was and healed when I wasn't, and things were happening that weren't. Like, people weren't hacking me. It's like, I'm just stupid. Like, I'm just paranoid, right? Like, I'm on, the weeds and the cannabis, and like, they're not there. And the answer is, no, they were there. You know what I mean? Like, that's a thing, right? And I don't like that at all. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not okay with that. I keep pretending I'm okay and then I'm fighting. But like, it's been getting rough, and truthfully, I need to get the hell out. And I've, been up and down and up and down and up and down, worse on my sleep schedule, seemingly all the time, and it's not been great. Shit's been rough. I don't like it. I'm not really liking how little my ADHD medication is helping right now, with everything being more stable. But then I'm like, I've done like genuinely all of the fucking, you know, uh, standard, even some non-standard treatments for depression and anxiety and even psychosis or paranoia, which is like, is that like, just because other people don't notice doesn't mean it's not there. Like, they'd have to be listening, and then if they were, they'd be like, oh, well, that's obvious as fuck. That is so obvious that they're there. And if people were listening to all of my recordings, they'd be able to use the way back and eventually find those usernames and more and start tracing this shit down. And it's like, no wonder why you don't want to go to police, because then at that damn fucking point, they're probably involved. Like, why wouldn't they be? So then it's just like, no, they're not, is the immediate response, right? But then it's like, that's very probabilistically, bell curve wise, a person that just wants to troll and say that's not the case, and they're going to pretend that that's like, oh, I believe in the system. In reality, they're the ones that are like, you're right, we have to go against the woke agenda. Like, I got this fucking targeted advertisement for the woke agenda. Like, somebody's got to stand up to the woke people. And then it goes off into some bullshit that's like how America needs to teach blah, blah, blah citizens about this stuff. And I'm like, all that's fake. They don't even teach that. And it's like all just meant to play into those heartstrings of people that are like that. But in reality, it's like, unless they're a part of your religion, you really aren't allowed to judge them. And it's like, Old Testament versus, hey, guess what? This multi-polytheism, or then there's this other theism, Judaism here, that was predating your ass. But like, oh, yeah, no, these messengers gave you the exactingly perfect message to give you for your Bible to be right versus their shit. Doesn't even really make sense. And then they talk about that, they get all so angry. And I was in a when I was homeless and living out of a mission, and it's like, this is bullshit. It is clear they'll cherry pick anything. And then I was looking at Simon Whistler, and I think today I found out or something about the Coca-Cola or Dr. Pepper origin story, and I was like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of journals that aren't included into that damn study that they're doing, which is like, this is the capitalist part of it. That has a big incentive to really only go after certain government, things, versus like people that were, oh yeah, no, for sure, we weren't a thing. Then I think about it more, and I'm like, there's no gay people in there, is there? Like, most of history, it was wrong for gay people and transsexuals, to be a thing, right? And I'm like, just because, like, generally speaking, minors and so on aren't like a thing, it's like, that doesn't mean anything. Then I was thinking about this. Oh, you can have a dead daughter or a live son, because I got another, like, fucking ad from that. It's like clear, salty advertisement. But it's like, no, 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 be afraid. Fearmonger, fearmonger. They're using this obviously baity language that's meant to scare us. And I'm like, dude, the truth is that it's better for them to be able to transition. Like, all of our studies pretty much just fucking say that, unless they're done really horrendously, stupidly bad. Now, there's a growth period where it's a little rough, sure, but eventually we get better. And again, like, your sex here, when your first time really wasn't that great, I'm sure. Like, you weren't hitting out of that ballpark perfectly, every fucking time, right? And it's like, it doesn't really mean anything, what's said there. There's the survivorship bias of like, well, a lot of this is hidden, into many journals that aren't really included into, like, those accounts, and even then, like, some of them do have people that do that, right? And then it's like, right, yes, but that 10% or something has to go, yeah, exactly, it's not counted for in the slightest, right? Which, it's like, they still existed, dude, and they're still part of that. It's like, generally wasn't accepted. I'm like, a little. So you think like every one of them is like that? Like the majority. It's like, cool, the majority isn't necessarily going to account for people that are like anything like that. So it's kind of irrelevant. Like, obviously it's going to look like that. Like, nice job basically showing off that your zeitgeist here doesn't really account for a lot of things we keep telling it doesn't account for. You know what I mean? So I'm like, cool, but like, also not really relevant as much as I would like it to be. But trust me, bro, this is a really good study. Like, it's so good. And I'm like, it's easy as fuck to pick this apart. Like, genuinely with good logic and reasoning and understanding about how they do things. Where it's not going to account for any of that as being like a normal percentage of the population that has this given thing going on that they're born with. And so it's like, no, but the anti-woke, anti-whatever. And it's like, that's what it feels like at that point. You know what I mean? I know he's not, but like, that's what it feels like. It's like, no, it's not going to count. It's not going to show that it's basically the same rhetoric. Like, generally you weren't accepted. And then like, okay, but like, that doesn't really mean anything. You know what I mean? Right? It's like, that really doesn't actually equate to much. And it doesn't actually even account when you think about that. The ones that were considered, but like not legally, I guess, are going to be in that study. That's really going to only go for like certain you know, records instead of like the very real people that were there, that a lot of their journals aren't scanned into online stuff, and then they're like behind closed doors and the restricted access of the you know, libraries that they exist, or areas for the people that hold them, because they're icky. We shouldn't allow for that. You know what I mean? It's like, no, 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 someone's got to stand up to them somehow. It's like, no, you don't. Like, you're just angry. And, like, it's uncomfortable to talk about it, but it doesn't mean that it's actually, like, bad. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a rough one. It's kind of for me especially, it's like, you do realize that people are still going to take drugs. Like, you can say that you're up against the wall on the drug war, and it's going to eventually be that we win. I don't think that's going to happen. And then I thought about it too. It's like, this is the designer, hormone, from this guy. And again, it's clear that it was kind of like getting suggested some of the Simon Whistler stuff for the designer drug to get around like the doping, cheating. And it's like, you know what I mean? And then like, yeah, that's pretty similar, when it comes down to people and involved in various aspects of invention and engineering and so on, that are like, no, 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 mine's totally different. And they go through like a book or something, even sexuality. Or it's like they go through a book and it's like, this is an old argument against it, and people don't even remember it anymore. But then next thing you know, they make the argument again, and it does well. And this guy like effectively did this with the old library book about a hormone that's supposed to be a performance enhancing, but it destroyed the liver. And it was like, that guy tested it out, but that was only for like a week. They didn't really do any real testing. And it's like, what do you fucking know? They all bought it, hook, line, and sinker. And it's like, that's the same fucking thing going on with this fucking crowd that thinks that they're, against, like, they're very progressive people, and they understand, you know what I mean? Like, no, 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 they're so progressive. And like, but you're not, though. You're not doing anything actually at all that account, like back then would be nothing. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't really mean what you think it means. You're doing the same thing that you did in the past. You know what I mean? And it's like the same stupid argument for those fuckers that are fear-mongering and then being all stupendously biased against like trans and then like the woke culture. And it's like, you guys are pretty much doing the same thing here. I know you don't maybe feel like that because protect the children or whatever, but it's like, what's wrong about teaching them consent-based stuff, having areas where they can go and feel safe to tell them if they've been harmed, and then like learning more about themselves mentally and sexually, and accepting themselves and their feelings for themselves and each other. That's what I'm really talking about. Like, you're an acceptable it is not about the amount of productivity you do. You are very valid and worthwhile regardless of that productivity. You know what I mean? And like, don't fucking fall into that bullshit trap about, all the rest of those things. And it's like, wow, we're teaching them about that, and then we're just going to be realistic about this fucking shit, where it's like, you know what, you're right. We should make it so that way you can do this safely, and you can come to us about having the curiosity and do it safely with like a lot less probability of trauma, and a power dynamic that ends up causing you to fear for things or believe incorrect stuff and know more about it. I mean, they are going to need to learn how to do self-control anyways. So it's just like, this is probably a good thing to teach them pretty quick, because the world's got a bunch of like, internet that is so much trying to get you to just spend so much time and be addicted to it and care tremendously about how well you do on it. And like, I don't know if many people understand how bad that's going to be as time goes on, but then it's like, no, this will lead to children understanding themselves and, us accepting and treating them as if they, could maybe know something about themselves, genuinely and maybe even present it where they try and present the possible consequences and likely outcomes that they won't want or are afraid of, or account it as much as they can, but accept our risks like adults have to too, which is a good thing to learn early on, considering you're going to have to continue doing that as you get older, as a kid, from teen to adult. Like, that's a good thing to know, just in general. But then they're like, no, you're trying to argue for, and it's like, I'm not really. I'm arguing for understanding, acceptance, and love of others. Like, just being realistic and honest, and not having like this weird power trip of I'm better than you start coming into the conversation when people like genuinely have it. So I don't know. I mean, that's the destructive part, because it's like, no, I will not think of you as having the ability to ever possibly even remotely, even when you're 18, truthfully, and it's just been getting worse and worse. And I'm like, yeah, because you won't teach them. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, why aren't you teaching them anything that they're probably going to use more often than the fucking goddamn, like, math and other shit in their lives? Not to be, just shitting on some of you, but, like, for real, most of the time, that's not, like, a tremendous, I get that there'd be a lot of nerds or whatever that are into it, or do use it because they went towards those jobs, but that's not the majority, man. So it's like, that's an irrelevant conversation of like, no, but I do. And I'm like, yeah, but that's you, and you are not everyone. But they should. And I'm like, yeah, well, they probably will, or maybe they don't need to. That's fine. Again, that's a capitalistic thing, or like they really need to learn this given skill set, but it's like, not as much anymore. Like, they should. Yeah, no, I agree. For sure. Obviously. It's a good thing, but that's not what teaches them critical thinking skills. Like, I've not really met people that really use math as, like, that was what finally taught me how to be a critical thinker. You know what taught me to be a critical thinker? This video game, and how I have to spec out my character, or, oh, I need to program this, or I need to write this story, or I need to set up this given, type of TikTok with this distance and this cut, and, you know what I mean? Like, that's a critical thinking skill versus what they think math is. You know what I mean? And like, that's genuinely going to help them for what it's worth later on in life. So, I don't know, man. I just feel like it's a bullshit cop-out. People sticking to something that doesn't make sense, and a lot of people are, like, angry or whatever about the idea, but it doesn't change the truth of the matter, which means, like, that's the truth. You can argue against, the advertisers might be salty AF, but it's the same thing when it comes down to the whole idea of, like, there's a genuine, real monetary gain to continue keeping the monogamous idea alive, or children are not mature enough to be able to vote or have sex or be seen in any way where they should be counted in our ideas. When we, throughout history, for sure, added their ideas in when they were good, even though, like, we like to just not account. It's like, there's so few. I'm like, doesn't change that they worked. You know what I mean? Minority or not, bro. Still is a good thing. You know what I mean? Or they'll argue for so long that they make sense. You know what I mean? Like, they'll just continue to keep arguing a just straight up bunch of bad study after bad study. Like, it's like, no, this anti-vax doctor, this anti-COVID guy. And I'm like, oh, you do see how similar this is, right? There are a lot of people that are experts, PhDs in these things, that do think like me. Like, I'm not alone in this. This isn't just from some guy that wants to make it more normal. It's like this is a genuine thing. Okay, and it's like I don't know what to tell you. Just because you don't like it, or you don't want to look that up, or you don't want to go towards that area, you don't want to really like take into account those you know genuine logical statements for that. I mean, come on, look at the fucking bias on this, the survivorship bias on this study that Simon's talking about as if it means anything. It's so rough. Same thing for like, oh my god, they're using this language that treats this validation of my teenager or kid of their sexual identity. And I'm like, or people that want to be included and validated and not looked down upon. It's like, what the fuck is this? They have real money, and you think it's like, no, they'll get nowhere. No, it's gonna get somewhere. For some people, like that's the dangerous part. You know what I mean? And they'll say it's the same for me, and I'm like, nah, sorry, bro. You know what I mean? Like I'm actually kind of the norm. I know you might not think that because publicly you'd have to say whatever, but like a lot of people do understand a lot of that. Like they might not like some of it or think it's like, well, I can see the logic or whatever, but because based upon my anecdotal experience and my idea of my children and my situation and me, or like a few things involving me, you know what I mean, without taking into a context or situation where you were taught these things and you were given the ability to learn in the appropriate way and speed for you and people like you, that it's like, no, this is the only relevant way to think or believe things. And I'm like, so you basically just don't think outside of like your little bubble? And it's like, yeah, pretty much is what I'm seeing online constantly, and they spout this nonsense like it makes sense. It's like, at one point, this shit was terrible. Well, it's not anymore. Yeah, but like, I get it. There's always this growing pain and resistance and want and desire to go back to the comfort they were at before, but it doesn't change the truth that that's not really like a good thing at times, and you kind of need to be pushed and not allowed to fucking succeed or be able to have people think and believe things like you. And you need to be given a good stern kind of kick in the pants to sort of help yourself, grow past those limitations, right? Right, it's like, they talk about it in therapy, but it's like, you gotta push past your comfort zone, man. And like, their comfort zone is this weird ideological crap that isn't true from back in the day that for 2,000 years had various changes in belief systems and wars and more fought for a long time. It just doesn't really make sense. Like the studies, the science backs me up. The logic, the reason backs me up. The understanding, the love backs me up. The realization that this has kind of always been there backs me. Like everything backs me up. Even if people don't really maybe like that. Because it's like, no, you're speaking and you got to give me all of this information. And it's like, but you would do the same for me. And it's like, no, you don't know me, I would. And I'm like, it's easy as fuck to go through all of these studies that you might show off as if like they're worth something that I should pay attention to. But if I like start looking at it and then commenting on where some failings or how they went down, would you get angry? Because it looks like you got angry with what I talked about with Simon Whistler's study and like how it logically didn't make sense to conclude what they did because they didn't account for these other variables. Which would basically dictate that you're just wanting to believe this and you'll take any information that tells you what you want to hear. See, it's like, no, some people do understand what I'm saying. That's the thing. Like, Because I'm not Simon Whistler. You don't know. I'm John Tyler Limpy and Xenon Reality on YouTube. I'm the guy that like thinks this way, and it took me genuinely over a decade to get to this point. If I'm being realistically honest, to fucking come around to the idea that it's like a thing, and I, should push back against people that are kind of against stuff like this, and realize that others had to do that, and they've been fighting for a really long time, way longer than I have, about stuff like this that is very similar to what I'm talking about, and they really don't like the idea of being included into it because like they're afraid of all their hard work disappearing or nobody really joining into the idea because we're included, and we are is a hard one for me because it's like sometimes yeah, sometimes no, mostly adults, sometimes it's teenagers, like I'm kind of all over the place for race, and looks and age, and heights and all that. So it's just like doesn't really make sense to me, and it's like no, that's the only thing. If you're gonna argue, then that means it's like no, I'm out in the open, man, and it comes down to what I like and what I don't, and very honest about it. And it's like that's hard for some people to grasp as like a positive. It means I know my shit and I know who I am, and I'm willing to fight for that to be a good thing and not a bad thing, because I am worth something. I deserve love. I deserve respect. I deserve sex just as much as anyone else, and I don't deserve to be looked down and hurt just for arguing. Like, I can easily take the easy route. You know what I mean? Like, the easy route is just like, no, it's terrible. And then actually, Christianity is the real. And like, because like they're just so hard up for people to fucking push this shit and be against like this woke culture identity. And it's like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to fall back into my comfort zone. Because first and foremost, that wasn't my comfort zone. I didn't grow up as a Christian. I didn't grow up in any religion. I barely had enough, like, actual socialization with other kids and adults and teens because, like, for the most part, I had a hard time having a conversation after seeing so many of them be afraid to be themselves around each other and genuinely mask hard or just straight up lie and pretend to get what they wanted out of each other. And I understood that so early on in my life, and I just felt like that was normal, and it was odd to think otherwise. It's like all they do is say this and act like this and then pretend like these things to these people that they view as bigger than them and that they should go along with whatever they say and so on and so forth. And it's just like, really? You're going to lie to me like this isn't the thing? You do realize I stopped believing in Santa like forever ago. Like you weren't able to keep that shit like a secret for very long in the slightest, let alone the tooth fairy. That whole trick that kids have posted about, like where they're like, no, I'll put the tooth underneath my pillow that dropped out and see if that they notice. And I'm like, I did that too. Pretty early. Like my first fucking tooth I ever lost. I was like, oh, this kid gets me. This kid understands me. This kid knows what I'm about here. And I'm like, oh, that happened is a subreddit, right? And it's like, no, that really did happen. Which turns into nothing ever happens, right? Like, I talk about all this shit on my YouTube, and you could never understand, apparently, that I would absolutely feel that way and think like that at a very early age, before some people might even understand that I was like that, especially when I had to hide myself from my family, because if I acted too smart, then they would like go after me. Like genuinely were jealous. They've said it so many times in my face. I thought it was normal for parents to just admit to that shit. Turns out it's not really. And they're like, online, like I can already hear them like, no, who's this guy? No, I'm not really. And it's like, you can't really judge another person that isn't in your religion. No, I can do whatever I want. It's like, well, if I cherry pick these, statements in your little book, it's like, no, but these ones are the ones I like and mean what I want. I'm like, so then it's never about the book, then, is it? You know what I mean? And it's like, not about the age, and then you're fine with the progression until it's like this one. So it's like clear what that is. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, this doesn't make any, that doesn't make, this isn't this. What the fuck is this? Who the fuck? What the? So then you know about that, you know about this, this is easy, this is obvious, this is, okay, then like you're just lying. You just, lie. Like that's all you're really doing. Like you're just lying there. And you're trying to make it like I'm lying. You know what I mean? Like you can genuinely find what I talk about, even if it isn't exactly easy to. And it's like not even that difficult to really kind of figure that out logically and logistically. Like that's just a statistical analysis of the basics of people now versus then and how they would have covered things up or talked about it or not talked about it, how it would have survived based upon whether or not they thought that that was a good thing for their public image in the future or not to be included. There's like dice deal stuff too in terms of what's allowable or not, which has changed all the time, constantly. Like what was acceptable and a thing for me when I was a kid was just like, fuck the blacks, the gays, all the things with the rainbow. You're a faggot and all the rest of it for the slurs, right? N-words spewed constantly. And I just didn't like that energy ever. Like some of my best friends were black or like gay or whatever. And I was just like, what the fuck? How does that work? Like you're definitely dressed up in a gay man's designed clothes. Like I don't care what you think. Like that's for sure a thing. You for sure like listen to gay people's songs and like them. Same thing with black people. Like, are they only good for this? And I'm like, same thing with all the rest of it. It's like, it doesn't really make sense. Like, all of you are lying, for sure. You know what I mean? Like, it's a whole thing. Yeah, it really is, though. It just doesn't make much sense. And then there's like the whole sexual assault problem. It's just like, that's way more likely to occur if you don't have like that like education and practice both at home and in real life, and it would be such a good thing to have in our schools, and at work too. Like, dude, and they're like, forceful education is not good. I'm like, I don't know, man. I feel like some of you need to go back to school because you forgot a lot. I didn't remember that things still continue like being learned and taught later on, even though like you're like 60 to like 90 years old. Doesn't change that stuff definitely got better and changed. Like your initial like let's think about like flathead V8s versus the very first engines that they came out with some of them being alive now. Still, when that shit was not even making 20 horsepower with a big old fucking V8. And then, like, same thing with transmissions and how they had to change gears for the Model T versus others. I'm like, what the fuck are you on about, bro? Like, things have changed dramatically. Like, you didn't even have computers. Now everything's computers. Like, you're like the obvious choice to just discuss how things continue moving forward. And sometimes, like, it gets scary. And it's like, hey, welcome to the club there, Buccarino millennials. It's like, you didn't change that part. That's still going to happen, bro. Same thing with you, Gen Zs, Gen Xers, and then like fucking Gen A's and more. It's not going to go away just because you don't like it. Like, no, I don't want to. No, we progressed more than enough for us. And I'm like, nah, you're pretty fucking, like, barking up the wrong tree here with all of that bullshit. You gotta get out of here. Like, you don't even know what the hell is going on there, Jenny. You're gonna be taught a whole bunch of bullshit because like the old ones figured out how to go online. You know what I mean? Look at these fucking motherfuckers, old as fuck, bastard level motherfucker. Total gabagooing up. And everybody's like trying to on the sly say it's like, you know what, there isn't really as much bad there, you know. But then it's like, no, but oh, whoops, no, I went too far. Yep, nope. Yeah, yep. Oh, no, I didn't mean it that way. That's not the no, you know. Couldn't possibly. Let's not think about that, you know. Let's go back to the funny, distract. When are we going to have this conversation? We need to have this conversation eventually. You know that, right? You know, right? Like, this is going to be a thing, right? Like, for sure, this is a thing. I know that you don't think that, or like, oh, I'm not really thinking winky that. But it's like, no, it's for sure. You need to stop, like, lying about that shit. And I used to do it in the past, too, but then I was mostly mimicking others. Because I kind of did feel that way. But I was also afraid. Like, it's hard. Because it's like, dude. Like, they talk about just killing anyone. And then, like, all of a sudden, it's like you're involved in that. And it's like, what the fuck? Holy shit. I'm involved in that? Wow, these motherfuckers will just straight murder anyone for being a good person or just existing in a way that they don't like. And there's always a percentage of them, like no matter how hard they try, you know? And it's like, it's because they're raised that way. And they're like, it's true. Truthfully, that's just, like, often what that is. And it's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And this weird, like, they draw a line here but not there. And it's fine when it's them, so they'll make the exception for that, but not these things. It just doesn't make sense. Like, you know, and it's like, it could be literally any reason, it seems like. And I just don't know what to tell people about that. Because it's like, you're clearly aware of what you're doing, and I don't know what to tell you. Like, you know that, like, that's a thing. And you're just pretending clearly. You know what I mean? Like, it's obvious what that is. And you can lie all you dang well please, but it ain't gonna change the truth. Like, people are like that. It's a percentage of our population. Nothing wrong with them. We could do better with how ultimately we can allow for people to not be terrible and get rid of everyone and be a bad person just for existing. Like, it just doesn't make sense, you know? And I'm not comfortable with saying that they're bad. I'm just not. Like, I'm sick and tired of having everyone be bad, except for, like, clearly bad people. You know, just so that we can finally go after the clearly bad people that are among those motherfuckers manipulating them into believing these things are bad. You know, like, that's really what it seems like they're doing here, and they're trying to turn it into that's what I'm doing, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm not, and I know that, and I know you are way, very much doing that. You know, like, some of you, it's like, no, I have to pretend because I'm in a stuck position, and, like, people really will just tank my life. But then others, it's like, nah. You know, like, honestly, it's better to just fucking come out and eventually be, like, yourself for real. You know what I mean? Like, this is so not gonna work out. You know? Like, it's just not a good idea after a while to just continue doing the very thing that you know isn't working. Like, insanity just doesn't work. Like, we just gotta stop doing the insane thing eventually. And we gotta go after those genuinely terrible people. And it's like, you're genuinely terrible, Gentile. And it's like, I've been called that, but I know I'm not. Like, I can empirically prove that in every fucking way. I can prove that you're a manipulative douchebag or have been manipulated by the very people around you to be the manipulative douchebag that you are. And are genuinely terrible and create everything bad in your fucking whole life. Everything that you hate, all the, like, people are going to push back against, like, the whole idea that we got to go against this or that or whatever else. But not for that, because it's obvious what that is. It's like, dude, we got to stop that. Like, it's clear that that's not okay. Like, these individuals are really mean people that are just gonna keep doing this terrible shit to others and just get away with it because we're scared of them. You know? And it's like, there are people like myself that understand that. And there are a lot of smart people. And it's like, I want to keep fighting, but I don't want to die. That's why I kind of just put my stuff online. I hope it gets somewhere and finds the right people and people understand, you know, who I am, what's going on, why I'm a good person, why others are stealing my stuff, why they're trying to pretend to be me, why they're, you know, doing all this shit that I claim that makes me look like I'm in psychosis versus what the truth is. Because it's like obvious that's an easy way to just go along with this versus like actually doing that part, which requires a lot more work and a lot more trust, but also like admitting that you weren't such a good person like you said. You know, like, no, that's you. You weren't such a good person like you said because you think these things, and you know, and I'm like, nah, I'm good. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, I'm sick and tired of hearing that from them. You know, either online with the usernames or the salty advertisements about, oh yeah, this is winning and I'm trying to make you feel bad. It's like, I barely even give a shit. You know what I mean? It like barely registers. I'm like, well, yeah, no, of course. I mean, that's something I talked about in the past that they could do. And like, you shouldn't. I'm gonna fucking hurt you if you try. And what do? It doesn't matter. We'll die. We have our God and he'll save us. You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, gee, it didn't really stop you from dying, that's for sure. Now we are against the evil devil. He comes in many ways and shapes and forms. He is a multi-headed pet. Blah, 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 blah. That's a bloody blind. You know what I mean? Like anything to basically sell a bunch of bullshit, it seems. Because that's all it is. It's money. They get money from that. And you know it. You know what I mean? It's just so fucking stupid. And I'm like, I'm not a bad person for being honest. Or being the truth. You know, a truthful person. Right? So, it's like I'm sick and tired of hearing that part. And people genuinely know me. And then it's like, oh, you're a really nice person. You know what I mean? It's like, you're really not a bad person. I don't know why people would think that. And it's like, yeah, I do. They don't like it when they meet someone that seems to be charming and gets people on their side and, you know, helps them to feel better and, you know, just isn't like a terrible person that's exploiting their insecurities or belief systems or anything like that. It's like a lot of good Christians are like, we should really stop the whole climate. Like, we want to treat this better than when we, you know, have it better than when we came in. You know what I mean? Like, the whole preachy message about the whole Christian thing is, like, treat others like you'd want to be treated, which means included and accepted and loved. Like, what the fuck is this? You know? Doesn't make sense at all. Like, what the hell they're doing and what the hell they're saying. And they'll say that, and they know, you don't make the sense. You don't make the sense. And I'm like, keep it up, bro. Someone will eventually try and say that you're right, even though no one is. Except for yourself trying to fucking fight me. Like, it's totally gonna work for you somehow. No, it's not. Come on. Like, just because I don't want to hate someone. You know, just because I don't want to fucking tear down a group of people and, like, genuinely change things for the better and make it work. Which is like, no, it won't. It won't work. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm just going to move on from you. They said that about, like, basically everything we have today. Like, everything that we we do on a day. Like, there is no magic screen projector of the fucking thing that happened. Now there's a magic screen projector of the thing that happened. It's like, we'll never get to the moon. We went to the moon. We will never split the atom. We split the atom. We'll never fucking figure out computers that can exist inside of our homes. Everybody has one in their pocket. And I mean, it's like everything they've ever stated is wrong about like everything. It just doesn't even make sense. Like they're like, no, you don't make. That's all they can do. It's literally it. That's all they got. But then they'll fucking take out the gun that they're legally allowed to buy and shoot people. And they'll be like, come on, man, write the manifesto. You're right, they should die. Yeah, get him. Get him in those fucking Muslim ass place. Get that Jew. Get that. And I'm like, what the fucking shit? You're on that side? No, I didn't even write that. I didn't even like that. I was just trying to get him caught. Bullshit, you were. I know damn well you're not. You fucking little knob. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, because, I mean, maybe. It's like, don't give that shit a fucking shot or chance. You know what I mean? Like, even, like, I saw this YouTube video from Duck, or The Duck, or whatever, right, on YouTube, about, like, super seniors, and I'm like, man, this hurts. I didn't even want to be a super senior, and I felt so awkward being there, and I was having so many mental difficulties, I ended up dropping out of high school. I couldn't even complete super senior year. I wasn't even trying to talk to anyone. But he's like, no, stay away from them. I'm like, thanks, Duck. You fucking jerk. You just jerk. Fuck you. You're so mean. Fuck you. Like, for real. Like, actually, seems like he's, a somewhat decently knowledgeable guy about, the whole fucking statistical likelihood of people being like something in a tier ratio of various, involved in continual like fixation or focus and interest on a given subject for people. That it's like, oh, that's interesting. And it's like, well, I guess I'll just go fuck myself, because it was that people thought of me like that, and I wasn't even, like, honestly trying to do anything other than just survive a day and be awake during the day, while every time I went to the school I felt traumatized, and every time I'd go home I'd feel alone and neglected and traumatized and abused. You know what I mean? It's like, no, Tyler, you're not. And I'm like, no, I am. That's not for someone else to decide, obviously. Like, just straight up gaslight. You're not, though. What? That's how this works. I say it isn't, and therefore it isn't. I just completely invalidate your feelings and thoughts and impressions and perspectives. Which is the whole point of what it is I'm trying to say with the whole Simon Whistler fucking, study that he tried to put out. Like, if it mattered. And I say, what do you know? Another one. Great, you know what I mean? Another example of a seemingly intelligent person being a total fucking stupid idiot. You know what I mean? And people will go on Reddit as if they're smart enough to fucking have this nuanced conversation on a topic that's just like, if you don't say this, then you're terrible and you should die. You know what I mean? It's like, this is so totally going to be a thing that you can, like, reasonably talk to a bunch of fucking idiots that can't see past their own, like, emotions about something. And I'm like, dude, you're talking to a sexual assault survivor who's been homeless. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. And I'm like, well, don't worry about it. Gatekeeping's in your nature. You're also SMI. It's like immediately discredit any given valid opinions or logic or anything, so that way they can continue going along with what they believe. And it's like, well, what if I put a bunch of fucking PhDs and gave you all the given knowledge and everything else? Well, you'd have to do that impossible thing on your YouTube because I'll never fucking watch it. Oh, I see. So that's not gonna happen. Look, the baby's crying again as the cow he is. Wah, says the cow. Wah, says the cow baby. No, you're the cow baby. Yeah. Okay. Jeez. It's just, fucking obvious what that is, right? But it's like, no, I don't want to kill you. And I'm like, oh, that's because, I'm one of the whatever fucking people that say it the right way that makes you not feel like shitty, terrible, unless it's like, clearly, it's, you're just misinformed, but I'll fucking take a look too. Oh, no, this guy's onto something, or, yeah, I agree a little, or, the varying thing. And it's like, you see what I mean? When it comes down to, like, how it ultimately all boils down to your perception of someone and whether or not you're willing to listen. Like, you're taught that from an early age. Like, yes, this person dressed like this, so that way they would think these things. That's normal. That's a good thing. You should all do. Shouldn't you just, like, treat them normally regardless of what they're dressed like? Or what their skin color is? Or anything? No! He looks more put together, so I should trust him. Well, you also got sold a bunch of snake oil during the 1800s for quack medical doctor shit. And you still are. Like, there are people that get more fucking funding and people believing in them when they're talking about selling bleach to these fuckers than I can get. When it's real physics that are understandable and genuinely true. Like, seriously, what the fuck? They're not paradigm shifting. They're literally all the same things that we put out over the fucking years. Like, legitimately, like, that's a thing. They're like, no. They're not. You need to... I can't Google at all, apparently, even slightly. I'll just find ones that say this might not be a thing and present that instead of anything other than the ones that showcase better fucking studies that show off the very things I'm talking about having happen. Or like, hey, guess what? This is in a fucking book. Did you read that book? No, it was published, but it was a while ago. Like, you might not remember it. Were you, like, super well versed into this area? I can't even begin to tell you how many different physics here are like that, where it's like, no, this is a thing. Just people aren't taught about it or forgot about it because it hasn't been used in so long that it's not even, like, on their radar anymore. You know what I mean? Like, that's a genuine problem where it's like loss of information that's just simply not passed down to student or even professor because they don't talk about it enough, or it doesn't stay in the public consciousness long enough that they all just go and remember it. I can genuinely count on... I can't count, actually. Like, there's so many different times where that's happened in our fucking, like, history that it's kind of sad. Like, we constantly forget that we did something and then forget to ever even check if we did. You know what I mean? And it's like, go read this book. It has this thing that says that this works. And it's like, yeah, no. And then it was replicated, and it does do that. It just never had a use at the time or meant anything to anyone for the time it was done. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, no, sliding valves. And like, they were set to actually, like, for cars here, were set to genuinely surpass, and rotating valves too, like, poppet valves. You know what happened with poppet valves? They won because some dude had enough money and, like, got to the market first, even though they weren't, like, the better fucking valves. But everybody's like, no, why would you ever use any of these other valves? And I'm like, well, because they're easier. And they waste less energy making, like, the valve thing work. Like, genuinely, that's the fucking fact of the matter. That's why everybody had them at the time, and it was just about cooling them down and replace them every so often when you needed to. You know, like any other fucking goddamn component of an engine. It's like, no, they didn't, and that's not what it is. It's like, that's exactly what that actually really was. Like, a person got an investment from Daddy Banks, who was rich and had a genuine incentive for the fucking engine company they had to have that one be the surviving one, because they couldn't get like any of the sliding valve designs that were patented already to market, and they didn't have like the machining at the time. You know, this company, even though others had it, to be able to make it work for them. I think that's literally all it is, and we've only gotten better at sliding. Like, we have on crankshafts bearing journals. They're just sliding journals that are bearings. They're flat, fucking hemispherical bearings. Like, no, they will never survive. They survive in the most destructive environment we have, called the crankshaft area, for an engine. Like, they could absolutely survive. What are you fucking on about? Who's stupid enough to say that? Like, how idiotic, right? But it's like, no, they would do it if it was good. No. You don't get it. People have a mob mentality. Like, the genuine gist is like, everybody does this, so this should be what you do. Not to mention, it's like, there are a lot of machines that are set up to basically make these. Like, what the? That doesn't make it better or even easier or even more cost effective. It's harder to fucking like mill out or lathe out anything for a poppet valve than it is to fucking make an actual just like genuine valve that slides, because they're a dime a dozen. They're so fucking cheap. And it's like, what the fuck is going on here? We've had two-stroke scavenge. We've had better fucking, like, you know, turbine turbo designs for decades, but nobody wanted to use them. Not even because it's like, man, we can't get the sound of the exhaust to fucking work, but because people didn't want to fucking change, like, what was already there. Like, the current, you know, reigning people that manufacture shit were like, nah, now we make more money if I do the continuation of this because comfort, and I know what this is. You know, and it's like, all calls back to the same thing. Comfort, and I know what this is, and that's bad and wrong, and why would they? It's like, gee, I wonder why the fuck that would be the case. Jesus fuck, right? And it's like, no, we're not that way. You're very much that way. That's all you really kind of are. Like, for real, I know you might not like that being said, but it doesn't change the truth. The truth is that's what you are. You know what I mean? It's like, same thing with how you talk to others and how you know, believe things about others, like immediate first impressions without ever really bringing that up or talking, so you feel awkward. It's like, man, I won't like this person all of a sudden, or like, I'll feel uncomfortable about them. You know, like, they'll suddenly be no longer in the Christian thing that I believe them to be and saved and blah, blah. And I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. That's not what you're so... God, motherfucker, damn it, man. They'll use any excuse. Anything. It's the fucking worst, man. And it's like, no, we're not. And it's like, no, you are. You are. Like, I'm sick and tired of that part. You definitely are. You know, you are. Definitely are. They can scream all they want about me being the one doing that to them, but the persecution fetish doesn't change. You know, even on that Democrat, I'm a progressive, or I lean, you know, more towards helping other side. And it's like, you don't, though. Like, you're fucking up your own ass wanting to feel special and better because you barely treat people better. You know what I mean? Like, that's all you do. Like, you barely treat people better and with the respect that they deserve and the worth and value they should have. And then you're like, meh, yeah, I'm way better than those people. And I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. You know what I fucking mean? Like, dude, come on. But they'll fucking look at you like, nah, and you don't even know. I'm like, I know for a fact you fucking do. Like, what the fuck? There's so many of you that do that. So, like, you can lie and say whatever the hell you want, right? And, like, people will fucking try and defend some dumbass as if that's what that is. And they are that way versus the truth. Because, of course, they'll get hit by it. You know what I mean? Like, no. I'm not like that. I actually think a little bit better than most. And I'm like, you kind of don't, though, bro. Like, really break that down a little. I mean, how often do you really? At the vast majority of the time, you're a cynic. You hate others, and there's no way for this to be a thing. And yeah, well, I agree with you on this or that. It just can't be done because people are shitty or whatever. And like, so you're letting other people control the situation. They're getting their way and what they want. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you're really doing at that point. That's it. Like, they're gonna win because they will just simply wear you down. Like all the other abusers in your life, bruh. But they'll be like, no, you're just wearing us down. Like, no, I'm not. You could leave this conversation anytime you want. I'm recording this. We're not even having a conversation, bro. You know what I mean? At least that's what it's supposed to be, right? And that's the truth. Like, bruh. Like, real bruh. Like, bruh. Do you even get it, bruh? Do you even understand, bruh? You're a stupid idiot, bruh. You said so, you're fast. Sometimes, you gotta get your friend to come over and let you understand. You're being an idiot, bruh. This is one of those times, bruh. You're being a bit of an idiot, bruh. You know what I mean? Like, that's what that is. It's like, no, you're not the one that decides that. My friends do. And I'm like, fine, but like, if you're smart like me, then it would be like that. Versus you're probably just going to get told what you want to hear. Because they'll be happier about that too. Is that really the right thing? You know, like, do you really just want to be told what you want to hear? Or do you finally want to be told, like, the truth? Like, it might not be the thing that you want to hear, but it is the truth. You know what I mean? Like, I know that sucks to kind of, like, hear said from someone you might not like, or is in your life or anything, but, like, it's still the truth. You know what I mean? Alright, be done with this. Let me go take a shower.